for this course, Fine Arts. And in this module, which is module 7, we'll be looking at the topic contemporary issues in fine art. Now, as we have all known that we have 10 modules for this course, and which implies that we'll also be having 10 different videos like this. So now in this module, this is module 7, this is our 7th video, which implies that we only have 3 more videos to go to complete our the whole course. However, we have been able to address and treat some important and cogent topics that revolves around fine arts in our previous modules, in which this topic is one of the most important ones. So, looking at the contemporary issues in fine arts, and fine art has actually evolved over the years and over the centuries. So, what are those issues? We cannot compare the issues that we have in fine arts in the 70s and 80s to what we have now in the 21st century. So this is mainly what we will be looking at the contemporary issues in fine art. Consider the fact that we are now in the technological era, where we have rapid technological advancements and technological growth. So how has these things affected fine arts as a whole, and how has it also affected the way we create our art and as generally? So that's what we'll be mainly looking at in this module. Now let's move on to the contents of the module. The first subtopic that we'll be looking at in this module is contemporary issues in fine arts. We'll be introducing ourselves to what we refer to as contemporary issues in fine arts generally, discussing these issues that we are referring to. Then after that, we'll move on to digital versus traditional art debate. So in this subtopic, we'll try to compare and contrast what we refer to as the traditional art and the digital art. We should know that just from the name, we can easily imply that traditional arts are the arts before the technological era, and in which digital art is are the arts during this technological era and technological advancements era. So we'll try to compare the two periods together, the two arts in these two periods together, to know what we are the differences that we can actually see, and to showcase how art has actually evolved and changed over the years. So now we'll also look at diversity, representation, and cultural appropriation. Then afterwards, we'll move on to art in the age of social media and NFTs. So this is another important subtopic in this module, art in the age of social media and NFT. I believe we all know what social media is, the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the likes. So now, how has art been depicted in this era compared to the initial era that we have, and even the era of social media and even NFTs. Now, finally, we'll also be looking at current global trends and influential contemporary artists, where we'll be looking at mainly the contemporary artists in this era that are influential and that we have that are generally and globally known. Also look at the current global trends that is trending, what is actually trending in art or in designing and fine arts. So let's move on to the introduction to this course. Now, we have that in the ever-evolving landscape of human expression. Now, contemporary issues in fine arts is actually serve as a mirror reflecting the complexities of our modern world. Now, fine arts encompasses visual forms such as painting, sculpture, installation, and performance. They have historically been a medium for exploring societal norms, personal identities, and cultural narratives. Now, what we are trying to establish in this introduction is just that fine arts is contemporary issues in fine arts is a mirror that is actually depicting or reflecting the complexity and hardship that of this modern world art. Of this modern art and during this modern world. So now we are trying to understand that fine arts encompasses different forms, such as it could be painting and painting, sculpture, or in any form that has to do with art, and how it has historically been a medium for exploring societal norms and cultural narratives. Now, today, as we navigate the mid-20s, as we are in the mid-20s, 2025, 2026 era, so these issues are amplified by rapid technological advancements. Just like I've been saying, that we are trying to look at these issues, especially because of the presence of technological developments. Now, not only technological advancement, but also global interconnectedness and pressing social challenges, where we have artists, they are no longer confined to traditional studios in the compared to what we have initially. They are more engaged with digital tools, environmental crises, and political upheavals, and creating work that provoke thoughts challenge conventions, and foster dialogue. Now, let's look at what we refer to as contemporary issues in finance generally. So, when we are talking about these contemporary issues, it's actually implied that the discipline is inherently tied to the social, cultural, economic, and technological context of its time rather than existing in isolation. Now, contemporary art itself, it refers to art that is being produced in this present era, just as the name implies, typically from the late 20th century onward, and it is characterized by its responsiveness to current events and its departure from modernist ideas of purity and abstraction. These issues suggest a field of influx where artists must navigate tensions between tradition and innovation, authenticity and commodification, and individual expression versus collective responsibility. Now, for instance, we highlight that how art can critique systemic inequalities or explore existential themes amid global crisis, implying that fine art serve as a both diagnostic tool for societal ailments and a prescriptive vision for alternatives. So we are just trying to establish here that talking about finance, it has mainly evolved to become from being just about ritual and entertainment and all, but it has become a global and avenue or platform that we can actually explore existential themes and amid global crisis, which imply that finance has serve as both a diagnostic tool for societal ailments and also as a prescriptive vision for alternatives also. Now let's move on to comparing digital and traditional art. Now, where we believe this topic is digital versus traditional art debate. Now, the debate between digital and traditional art, it mainly centers on the evolving definitions of artistic creations, value, and legitimacy in the fine art. Digital art is defined as artwork created or presented using digital technology, just as the name implies, which could be art that is created through computer softwares, algorithms, artificial intelligence (AI), or virtual reality platforms, which often resulting in non-physical or reproducible forms like digital illustrations, animations, or generative pieces. While on the other hand, traditional art, in contrast, it refers to works made with physical materials and hands-on techniques, including painting with oils or acrylics, sculpting with clay or stone, or printmaking on paper. Now, this dichotomy implies questions of authenticity. Is a digitally manipulated image as original as a hand-painted canvas? So these are what we are trying to establish here. This is a question that this topic is actually asking. Is digitally image as original? Can we say it is as original as a hand-painted canvas also? Now, proponents of traditional art argue that it offers tactile authenticity, emotional depth through visible brushstrokes or imperfections, and a direct connection to historical practices, emphasizing the irreplaceable human touch. Now, the image on the screen has been able to compare what we are referring to. We can see this image that has to do with is a form of like artificial intelligence, where we have the traditional one that is used, the handmade art that is actually involve the use of oil and brush. Now the question is now that which one is more original? When we are talking of originality, is it the traditional art debate or the digital art? Is it the traditional art or the digital one? So this is what the question that this subtopic is actually asking us, and that it has been able to answer. Now let's move on to diversity, representation, and cultural appropriation. Uh, these are interconnected concepts that actually address equity and ethics in finance. Diversity refers to the inclusion of artists and perspectives from varied backgrounds, including their race, their ethnicity, gender, sexuality, ability, and socioeconomic status, ensuring the art would reflect global pluralism rather than a narrow, often Western-centric canon. Now, representations, on the other hand, it involves the accurate and respectful portrayal of underrepresented groups in artwork. While cultural appropriation, conversely, is the adoption of exploitation of elements from one culture by members of another, typically a dominant group, without permission, understanding, or credit, often leading to commodification or stereotyping. Now, moving forward, institutions are adopting decolonization strategies such as repatriation artifacts to actually promote ethical practices. Now, this issue underscores that finance must evolve toward inclusivity, where diversity enriches creativity and representation prevents harm, ultimately making art as a tool for social justice. Now let's look at the next subtopic, which is art in the age of social media and NFTs. I believe we all can relate to this when we are talking about social media. Now it is the same as talking about art in the digital era. Now in the digital era, art intersection with social media and non-fungible tokens, that's NFTs, has actually revolutionized creation, distribution, and monetization. Social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and X, which is formerly known as Twitter, they are online network for sharing content, enabling artists to bypass traditional gatekeepers like galleries, like museums, and reach global audiences instantly through posts, stories, and live sessions. NFT, on the other hand, they are unique digital assets verified on blockchain technology, representing ownership of digital art, music, or collectibles, and it is often sold on marketplaces like OpenSea. So now social media fosters community feedback and trends, but it also commodifies art into content, prioritizing virality over depth, leading to issues like algorithm-driven homogeneity or mental health strains from constant comparison. So we also are trying uh, what we are trying to establish here is that art in this era has been able to just bypass the normal routine and the traditional way, which is the gallery and museums and the like, where we can actually have access to different arts. But now we on our social media platform, everyone can have access to different arts from different artists across the globe. Like Twitter, a good example of this that we can actually see is during the African tour by the one of the most common streamer in the world, Speed, in his African tour. We can see the different artists trying to create design about him and create some kind of image, draw the artist through painting, and actually gifted him so that he can be seen globally. And it is these artists are mainly easily recognized and seen over through his page on social media. And people are now trying to reach out to them through their social media platform. This is just a way of bypassing what we are trying to address. Now let's move on to the current global trends and influential contemporary artists. Now, the current global trends in contemporary fine art, it reflects a blend of technological integration, cultural introspection, and a return of materiality and digital saturation. Now, one prominent trend is the resurgence of craft and art-based artistries, divine as works emphasizing manual skills and technical techniques like weaving, ceramics, or collage, often as a counterpoint to AI-generated imagery. Now, this shift, driven by collectors seeking irreplicable pieces, it actually highlights authenticity and emotional connection in an era of digital proliferation. Immersive scale is another key trend involving large-scale installation or experiential art that actually demands physical presence, such as multisensory environments or site-specific works, fostering deeper viewer engagements beyond screens. Asia futurism, a term coined by critic Don Chan, merges futuristic themes with Asian cultural elements, responding to global xenophobia and American decline through motifs inspired by K-pop and tech. Now, in conclusion, the comprehensive exploration of fine arts across these modules, it actually reveals a discipline that is profoundly dynamic, historically rooted, and perpetually adaptive, serving as both a mirror of human experience and a catalyst for cultural and personal transformation. Now, from the foundational definition and historical codification of fine art in 18th century Europe, emphasizing aesthetic and intellectual purposes over utility, to the meticulous progression of drawing techniques from basic line control and shading to intermediate perspective, gesture, and texture rendering. Fine arts emerge as a skill built on disciplined practice, observation, and mastery of fundamentals. Now, this technique foundation extends into the rich historical development of art through eras from prehistoric ritual expressions to the Renaissance humanism, Baroque drama, and the evolutionary shifts of modern movements like Impressionism, Cubism, and abstract expressionism, while printmaking also stand out as a democratizing force of controlled multiplicity, distinct from paint's uniqueness. Thank you. That will be the end for this class. We'll move on to